Hei alle sammen, og velkommen til VMware vForum Norden og Baltikum 2021. Dette er en live online-sesjon levert til din tilværelse, om det er hjemme eller på kontoret. Mitt navn er Andreas Marqvardsen, og jeg er her sammen med Roar Myklebust, og vi ser frem imot å ta dere gjennom denne sesjonen i årets vForum-event.
Takk Andreas, hei alle sammen. Jeg heter Roar og jobber som UC Solution Engineer i VMware Norge. Som alle andre event dette år som har gått, så er dette et online event. Vi kan ikke være fysisk sammen ennå, men forhåpentligvis skal vi være her og ha mulighet til å dele litt innovasjon, innsikt og kunnskap. I dag har vi den siste vForum for denne runden, og vi skal jo da se på VMware sin SASE-løsning, der vi knytter brukere, cloud, nettverk og cloud-sikkerhet sammen.
Ja, og vi vil starte denne sesjonen med en keynote av Gustafsson, etterfulgt av en teknisk sesjon hvor vi får en gjennomgang og demo av VMware SASE. Deretter vil vi avslutte med en panelsesjon bestående av meg, Roar og Jakob Fehn, vår VCN-salgsspesialist i Norge. Før vi setter helt i gang, vil jeg tipse om at det går å stille oss spørsmål underveis. Ettersom dette er et Zoom-seminar, har vi mulighet til å stille spørsmål ved å benytte Q&A-funksjonen innebygd i Zoom. Om en ikke er kjent med Zoom fra før, så finner du Q&A-knappen nederst i vinduet der du har din Zoom-sesjon. Da har man mulighet til å stille spørsmål som vi vil prøve å besvare enten live eller via chat.
Ok, vi har en fullpakket agenda i dag, så det er på tide å gi ordet til Per og Mohsen.
Good day and welcome to vForum Online for the Nordic and the Baltic region. My name is Per Gustafsson. I'm the regional director and super proud of leading our business with our customer in this region. With me, I have our expert in workplace environment, Mohsen Ali.
Hi, Per, and good morning, everybody. Thanks you for joining. My name is Mohsen Ali. I work as a digital workspace specialist at VMware. I'm located in Denmark, covering the Nordics. Often visit my colleagues in the UK and the rest of Europe, virtually, of course. But this is the new normal we're all living in.
Well, yes, it is. And I'm in Stockholm, so we're doing this 100% online. And you know, this area of technology is something that's close to my heart. I've been super focused on the digital workplace and talking about the need for it. And before the pandemic, you know, some people really understood it, and some might have, you know, thought that what we have is good enough. I think today everybody understands what we've been talking about, because it's about giving people the tools to be productive and engaged wherever they are. And everybody understands that now. So you need to be able to work from anywhere, work from home, work from the office. And I do think that the physical location will be kind of optimized for what you need, right? So if you need to sit by yourself, you know, quietly and doing a piece of work, maybe it's best to work from home. But engaging with other, brainstorming, strategy meeting, maybe it's more suitable from the office. And the expression "good enough," you know, when people talk about different solutions, well, it's not good enough not having the best platform supporting your business and organization productivity. So so that's super great. And we've done some you know, research over the year. And Mohsen Ali, you have some findings.
Yeah, Pierre. So when the pandemic was at its initial height in the Nordics, VMware did a global survey with friends on board. We wanted to understand and analyze how enterprises are responding and adapting to the pandemic. We asked 5,700 global respondents across industries, across company sizes and functions. And we have found a lot of interesting findings, which we of course can share with you all. Please reach out to me, your VMware contact, or your VMware partner to receive full access to the report. For today, I wanted to highlight one aspect, that 90% of employees expect that companies should provide the digital tools for remote work. And Per, this is something we talk with almost all of our customers about. And many of them are trying to embrace this, but there are some challenges. Could you take us through some of these?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Yeah, it's you know, mainly from two perspectives. It's the user challenges and and it's the IT op challenges. And from a user point of view, it's the most obvious one is, of course, poor voice and video quality once in meeting. That kind of VPN architecture is not suitable for what we're using it for nowadays. And then that inconsistence, of experience working remotely or on site. From a central point of view, it's like, wow, what happened? Every user is now seen as a remote site. So connectivity, security is a big thing, to ration VPN capabilities is not the future. And, the biggest objective is to make our co-workers productive, engaged to deliver high productivity. But Mohsen Ali, in your case, you joined VMware, remotely. It was not an office onboarding. You onboarded from home. How was that?
It was thanks, Per. It was a different experience, but I was and still am amazed at how we as a company are coping with the challenge. So from my experience, from receiving my contract to getting the onboarding processes, to getting access to the applications, and actually being able to remote work from home 100%. And this is something I regularly share with our customers, because that something that unifies us all is that we're trying to find a new way of working in this pandemic. And one of the reasons I joined VMware was that the company is constantly evolving and adding new capability to our strategies. If you look back for the last couple of years, we've done a lot of acquisitions, and this is to, of course, support our vision and strategy. Could you please elaborate on how we're evolving and supporting our customers' business initiatives?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are doing that from our long time strategy, any, as we call it. It's about giving people the opportunity to access any type of application from any device of choice, and regardless where the application is hosted. So that gives our customer a great flexibility to optimize their IT platform for the future, supporting their business. Within the future-ready workforce, I would say there are three main things going on right now. So one thing is that we need to re-architect the way we access application in a secure way with a multi-cloud approach. It's about optimizing that experience, delivering digital workspace on physical and virtual devices, but with the underlying network capabilities needed. And then something that's been clear for everybody, the transformation to be even more digital also increased, it also comes with an increased risk. So making sure you have an end-to-end secure architecture is key for the future. And
thanks, Per. I think we're doing making a huge impact for the customers working with us. There are still some who don't know what we actually do in these specific areas. Could you talk about the scope and the reach we have done and we're doing thus far?
Yeah, sure. It's mind-blowing. The deployment of the technology we bring to market is going very, very fast. So, we are having more than 17,000 virtual cloud network customer, more than 280,000 branch sites. We have become the #1 SD-WAN vendor. We are the #1 unified endpoint management leader, and we have more than tens of millions of Workspace One clients at the moment, and we are getting recognized for it. So by the leading analysts, we are seen as the leader when it comes to VANets infrastructure. We are seen as the leader when it comes to unified endpoint management as well.
Thanks, Per. Great insight.
So with that, I wish you a great vForum. Thank you for the attention, and thank you, Mohsen Ali, and looking forward to see you soon. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Takk Per og Mohsen Ali. Det spennende tider med mange interessante poeng. Hvordan vi kan sørge for en sikker, fremtidsklar arbeidsstyrke.
Helt klart. Vi ser jo at fremtiden kommer til å måtte tilby mer fleksible løsninger over et stort område, og vi trenger da fortsatt gode og stabile løsninger for at dette skal fungere. For å vise litt hvordan dette kan se ut, og hvordan VMware sin SASE-løsning kan se ut, så har vi da med oss Anders og Christian.
Hello, my name is Andreas Krus, and I work as a lead solutions engineer for VMware, and I'm specializing in networking and network security in virtualized environments. Today, we're going to talk about the SASE concept and the initiative that VMware now takes around the concept. And today, together by my side, I have my end-user computing specialist, Christian Nilsson. Christian.
Hi, my name is Christian Nilsson. I work as a solutions engineer and user computing at VMware.
Let's look a little bit about the different components that you have in a SASE solution. So, of course, there has been a lot of changes in modern infrastructure, in modern data centers, and in modern application development and consumption. So the old traditional model where we had control over all the users and the consumptions, and there was clear inside and outside where we can put our firewall in between, and where the applications is very traditional and very sequential. This is no longer the case, of course. So there's a lot of applications that have evolved, and an application contains a lot of different components, and those components are probably distributed in a number of places, and the consumption of these applications are also distributed. The DC itself has evolved, and there's a lot of software-defined components nowadays where security and networking is treated the same way as any other software-defined object. And together we form a logical infrastructure that is not the same as the physical infrastructure, where our customers can run their logical infrastructure even though they do not own the physical infrastructure. And of course, the branch has evolved. We are working from the office, we are working from home, and we are working from airports and from customers and coffee shops, or whatever is your example. And of course, this has been even more clear now the past year, since we've been hit by the COVID, that there's a lot of people that find a lot of quality working from elsewhere than from the office. And of course, when working from home or working from wherever, you demand the same user experience, and you demand the same services and the same level of security, of course, regardless if you are working from an office, from home, or from anywhere else. So from a SASE point of view, and introducing the SASE point of presence, what we are basically doing now is that we are taking a lot of network functions and taking those functions, creating them as software object, combining those with a lot of security, software-defined security, and we make this a distributed infrastructure that our customers can consume. And there's a lot of attention around SASE, and probably this is something that will be a main consumption model for a lot of use cases going forward. And of course, we are not only consuming network and network security from persons consuming something in the network. There will be a lot of use cases going forward where there are different types of functions that are consuming the network and is of need of security functions, network security functions. And of course, it doesn't make sense to install a fully fledged network security infrastructure whenever there is a need for a consumption of networks. So it makes sense to basically have security functions in the cloud rather than at the site where you have your function. Okay. So when zooming in at a SASE point of presence, and of course, VMware will have a lot of point of presence, SASE POPs all over the world. But if we zoom in on an individual point of presence, we can see that there are a couple of components, and we are introducing this concept now with a couple of functionalities, but going forward, we will of course introduce more and more functionalities into our SASE POPs. But basically what we can say already today is that we can distinguish between a couple of different, how do you say, different components in our SASE point of presence. So the first one is, of course, there has to be a way to coming into your virtual infrastructure. So we say that we have a zero trust network access, the secure access provided by the VMware end user story. Once you are with your traffic, you are inside of your virtual software defined your network as an overlay network on top of existing infrastructure. And typically the infrastructure will be mostly internet, so someone else's infrastructure. But of course, you can combine it with your own infrastructure, such as MPLS, or if you have your own fiber infrastructure. The network will connect you with all your different components that you have in a secure manner. And then you will do a couple of different use cases. We have a couple of different use cases when it comes to exit of the overlay network. So basically you can look at it like this. If you see on the left side, we can basically have a grouping of different use cases when it comes to stuff consuming the network and the network security. So from the left side, we can see that we have users or components connected somewhere. So they are at home, they are at customers, at airports, or wherever they are. So basically we have a standalone device connecting to the overlay network. There's a lot of drivers towards home offices. So probably in the future, we will see even more home users where basically the workplace is from home. So they have an home office. And of course, there will be still a lot of regular offices all over the world. All of these different use cases, users and use cases, they connect to in a secure way to our overlay network. And on the right-hand side, we can distinguish a little bit about what stuff you are consuming. So we can say that there are basically three different main consumptions that you are doing on the right-hand side. So you're consuming stuff that you have built or at least hosting yourself. So they are in your own data centers. We will also probably consume a lot of SaaS services. So basically services that are trusted but provided by someone else. And then, of course, there will be a lot of stuff that our users will consume out from the internet, regardless if those are applications or if they are just websites that our users are visiting. We can say that these are untrusted applications, and we should be able to cope with all of these. The SASE points of presence basically will be built in the same locations where VMware already have what we refer to as cloud gateways. Because in our SD-WAN offering, already as of today, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different cloud gateways where our customers can consume the overlay network and they can exit somewhere in the world depending on where the application wants to go. And this traffic is protected from a security point of view by ciphering, and also it's protected from a quality point of view. Let's go into details later on. So we have basically enabled our gateway components or gateway places in the world to have these full functions, and then we call it a point of presence. So a SASE point of presence, the ambition from VMware, you can see down below, that is to have 80% of the population in the world to have the ability to connect with whatever device they have. They should have the possibility to connect in uplink direction to a SASE POP within 10 milliseconds of latency. And also the ambition is that we should be able to reach all the major data centers, all the hyperscalers all over the world from a SASE POP in outgoing direction within 5 milliseconds latency. That's the ambition. So when zooming in even more into the functionality of the SASE POP, let's start with the Zero Trust Network Access, the secure access component provided by end user computing. And here I hand over to Christian Nilsson, who is our expert in those matters. Christian.
Now we're going to take a look at how we can achieve Zero Trust Network Access from an endpoint perspective. To achieve Zero Trust, we would need to validate each and every step within the full process. When it comes to Workspace One, we look at the end user, how they authenticate and validate that it's the correct user accessing resources. On the endpoint, we make sure they are configured in the framework we've set up with the company. We distribute application in a secure way to the endpoints with how they should be configured. Once the application is onto the endpoint and the end users are accessing the application, they will start communicate back to either an internal resource or an external resource. But anyway, we need to secure that access to the backend for the communication. With Workspace One, we have full visibility of the users, endpoints, and application, and how they communicate onto the network. That gives us the ability to actually correlate this data and have a dynamic security settings in each and every given moment. Because that is dynamic and it will be changing. You go from corporate network off the corporate network using different applications at different situations. So we keep on validating that all the time. The endpoints, we use device management to configure the devices. We push profiles with payloads on how they should be configured, what security settings that is to be used, what can be changed, and such. And also with device compliance, we always keep on checking that the device is compliant and within the framework we set it to be. If not, we can do remediation of that device or application. So for instance, if out of compliance, we might be sending just a notification to the end user, but it could also be removing an application, a profile, or a network access to certain corporate resources, or even put it onto a quarantine network. But once that is fixed, we can automatically put it back, either resource or application that we had removed for security reasons. So looking at conditional access, in this case, we have a managed device on a known network. We just grant access to the applications. Looking at a managed device, but from an unknown or predefined network, we would prompt for two-factor authentication, so we can validate that it's the correct user trying to access the corporate resources. But as if it's known or unknown network, not under management or out of compliance, in this case jailbroken, we won't give access to any application. If we're looking at the top use case here, it could be either that the Windows device is out of compliance or not under management. So we directly at boot up, we will start looking at health attestation and the device posture before granting access to application. Looking at the use case in the bottom here, we have a managed device that is will be validating if it's compliant with AirWatch compliancy. Looking at is secure boot used, do we have encryption enabled, antivirus and firewall is configured the way we should, and is it using the right version of TPM. If passing, we will grant access to our corporate resources. Once using the corporate resources, we would, of course, authenticate it in the pre-configured way we set with our company. Now to the application, we use data loss prevention. So we make sure the application themselves can, how they can communicate with other application, where they can store data or even ingest data into the application, but also leveraging conditional access. For instance, if not in a certain network, we won't be able to access the application. It might be if we're off the network, we would use a multi-factor authentication, while on the corporate network, we would use a certificate to gain access to the application. What is very important also, keeping the privacy of the user so they feel confident to be having a device that is under management. So we make sure to just look at the corporate application and resources provided to the endpoint, and not looking at the personal application, the data that they do have. And if required to remove corporate resources for some reason, we would only remove the corporate managed resources on the device and leave the personal application and data onto the device. And we're not looking at that at all with Workspace One. Now we've been looking at the actual user, how we would secure the device and the application. Now setting up a secure network access. In a traditional environment, we would have our internal resources in the data center, secured by a parameter firewall. We would have our endpoint, where we would install the VPN client that would actually tunnel all the traffic into the data center, even those that kind of traffic that we wouldn't want to get into our internal network. With Workspace One, we can do it a little bit much more granular and secure. So for each application, we can set up a tunnel. We specify what application that could be communicating within that tunnel, what domain that they can talk to. For instance, in another tunnel, we might be using a specific browser with a specific URL that can communicate within the tunnel. And before connecting this tunnel, we do make sure that the device is within compliance. Otherwise, we won't connect the tunnel. So the traffic that we wouldn't want to go into our corporate network isn't configured to use any tunnel, so it will be immediately stopped and not transferred into our internal network. To make it even more granular, we could use NSX, leverage the device policies that we already create, security policies that we already created, and just reuse those policies with Workspace One. But actually, what is a little bit new here is the secure access service edge that we provide, and that actually is a unified access gateway with a VeloCloud edge. But what is unique here is that we, in a smart and dynamic way, choose where that connections should happen. So for instance, for the internal application, we choose the fastest and most secure way to connect to our internal application through a SASE POP that is located on our internal network. But for SaaS applications, we would connect to a POP that is located closest to the application and has the least unprotected communication to the actual application that they're going to communicate with. If we have unspecified traffic that we're not sure of how to handle, we would send it through a POP and to our secure web gateway and validate whether it should be forwarded to our service that we want to communicate with. If not allowed or not wanted traffic, we will immediately stop it and not forward it. Now I will hand over to my colleague Anders.
So the very heart of our SASE offering is the software-defined WAN, wide area network, SD-WAN. So what the SD-WAN will do is that it will take all the traffic that comes from the left side of the picture. It comes from individual users. It comes from branch offices, home offices, hyperscalers, or other types of equipment. And those users are pushing traffic into our overlay private network that runs on top of whatever physical infrastructure we have, such as internet or MPLS links or whatever we have. So if you look at the SD-WAN and the different components, you will see that we have three main components in our SD-WAN. So to the left in the picture, we have the orchestrator, and the orchestrator is the GUI where you as an administrator log in to manage and to monitor your infrastructure. It will also act as an API gateway if you want to automate stuff. The orchestrator is typically cloud hosted and it runs as a service for you as an end customer. To the right in the picture, we have what we refer to as an edge. The edge is a piece of software ready to be installed somewhere in your infrastructure, and the edge could be packaged as an OVF, as a VM, so that you can install it in an already prepared environment. You can also package that software in a purpose-built appliance, so you can send that appliance to some office or a home user or whomever, and that person doesn't have to have a technical experience. It's just a matter of powering this device on. So it's a zero-touch, plug-and-play kind of installation. And in the middle of the picture, we have the gateway. The gateway is the infrastructure provided by VMware, and it is installed in hundreds and hundreds of places all throughout the public internet. And the gateways is the location where we will combine with the other functionalities. So the gateway will be a part of the SASE POP infrastructure. So what the the SD-WAN brings to the table is the connectivity that connects everything you have that wants to talk with some kind of service somewhere in the world. So of course the SD-WAN brings stuff as ciphering and zero-touch provisioning, zero-touch installation, as we have already mentioned. But the most important thing is what it's doing with the traffic itself, because this is very much more than just ciphering of the traffic. This is not a, how do you say, a managed IPsec service. This is very much more. So if we look at the branch site with the SD-WAN, the green circle in the left part of the picture, So we can see that now. Imagine that this is a site somewhere. Let's say it's an office where we have provided the edge functionality. So it's either a software running or it is a purpose-built box. But what we can notice here is that we have multiple uplinks. And that's one of the use cases of the SD-WAN. So if you have a private MPLS, you can use that if you want to. But we see a lot of companies is skipping the very expensive MPLS link, and they buy not only one but maybe 2 or 3 different plain vanilla public internet connections from, let's say, a couple of different providers. Because one of the things that the SD-WAN can do is bandwidth aggregation. So if you have multiple physical uplinks that you bring to the edge functionality, the edge will combine all these into one very fast link and very high performance kind of link. Everything that runs within the SD-WAN, we do what we refer to as a deep application recognition, DAR. Deep application recognition means that we are looking on who is the source of this particular traffic, who is the destination, what is the destination, what applications are running, what protocols are running, what does the SSL certificate say, and so on and so on. And we can identify a couple of hundred different applications. And depending on what we want to do, we can, on a per application basis, we can treat these applications depending on what we want to achieve. So imagine that we have a highly prioritized real-time service running at this edge location. This application is sending real-time traffic. And what we do with the uplinks, one of the functionalities that we have on the edge is that it's, of course, knows how much bandwidth the individual physical uplinks can bring. But we will also probe these links constantly. So we know exactly what is the latency in every instance of time. And we know also by checking the traffic, we know the number of packets that we lose, and we see the bit errors. So if we want to, we can do what is referred to as a per packet link steering. So if we have a highly prioritized application, we can make sure that that application is using the best suitable link if we have multiple. And if something happens to that link, we can use the other link and then going back. And we can do this not a per session, but a per packet kind of fashion. Of course, we can prioritize if we have a bunch of different applications using the same overlay SD-WAN connection. We can use different kinds of quality of service settings, so you can prioritize your different applications. But we can also do what is referred to as forward error correction, meaning that if we see packet loss or if we see bit errors, the system itself, the SD-WAN itself, can correct those. So removing that burden away from the application to do that end to end. And one of the cool things that we can do is that if we have a highly prioritized real-time service and we suffer from bit errors on the different links, what we may do is that we may send the same information. If we take the individual packet as an example, we can send the same information multiple times on the same link, and possibly combine that with sending the same information over multiple links, just making sure that on the other side we have at least one frame that is combined to be an error-free link if there is no time for doing retransmission, if this is a highly prioritized real-time service.
Now I would like to show you how this looks in real life. And you see me being tunneled into the corporate network, into this test application that we created. Now accessing an SaaS application using Firefox that has been deployed from Workspace One. Now also looking at how my my breakout, what it looks like using this application. I go to my IP. As you can see with this application, the closest breakout is with Zscaler in Germany. This also works for native applications. In this case, we're going to use Slack. Up in the right-hand corner, you can see that we are using the tunnel network.
Okay, so have a quick look on how the VeloCloud Orchestrator GUI looks like. So this is cloud hosted, as we said. And when you are logging in, you get into the monitor view. And in the demo setup, you can see we have 4 different locations. We have the VMware office in Solna, where we have our data center. We have installed an edge from the marketplace in AWS Frankfurt. We have my home office, and we have an office in Uppsala, which is a little bit north of Stockholm, where we have a couple of employees. We can see that everything is green here, and we can see the number of connections. So, for instance, if I click on my home office, we can see that I have plugged in a fiber from one provider, and also I have a 4G connection from one of the mobile operators here in Sweden. We can see the performance of these links, and also we can get, if we want to, the actual numbers of the latency that we have at this very moment. Because as we said, we are doing probing of all the links all the times in both directions. We also get information of what applications that are running in each site. If this is what we want, we can see the sources that is accessing different destinations. If we go to the edges overview, we also get a map where we see that we have one location, as we said, in AWS Frankfurt. If we zoom in a little bit on Stockholm, we can see that we have 3 different locations: Uppsala, Solna data center, and my home office out in the Stockholm archipelago. If you go to network services, we see that we have 2 things of interest. First of all, we have a connection between the edge software that is running in the data center. The edge is announcing all the prefixes that we have in the SD-WAN side, everything that is known within the SD-WAN site, and that is advertised using BGP into the data center, and the data center is doing the same thing back. All the subnets and prefixes that we have in the data center is known to the SD-WAN. We can also see that we are using Zscaler as a third-party security provider. So we said that we had 4 different locations, and a few of those locations have multiple uplinks. This means that every uplink has its own connection to the Zscaler cloud infrastructure. So in this particular case, if we want to, we can push traffic that we don't trust through the Zscaler functionality, and via Zscaler, it is exiting out on internet with the security features of Zscaler. The way you configure this, most of the stuff is handled by a profile. So most of the settings that I have on my edges will be provided in the profile that I'm applying. But if I want to, I can go into the individual edge, and I can say, for this particular edge, I'm overriding the settings in the profile with this specific settings. And let's just have a real quick look into the Zscaler admin GUI. This is not our product, but let me just show you that what we have done in our setup is that we have registered as a partner integration the SD-WAN from VeloCloud. And we can see that now we have the possibility to use all the security features provided by Zscaler when we are exiting from our VeloCloud SD-WAN out on internet. So the final piece in this demo is that I'm showing a little bit of functionality that will be, in the long run, included in the SASE concept. And this is what is referred to as Edge Network Intelligence. So Edge Network Intelligence aims to analyze on the LAN side, not only on the WAN side of the SD-WAN, but also on the LAN side. So in this example, I'm showing you the client that is installed on my Apple, my MacBook, and you can see that this is providing information about how the situation looks like from my end point of view. And this concludes our demo.
Takk, Anders og Christian. Dette virkelig viser oss hvordan VMware SASE kan si brukerne, cloud networking og cloud sikkerhet sammen. Så Roar, hva ble du mest interessert i?
Nei, så sikkert noen fikk med seg, så jo dette mye teknologi som vi allerede bruker I dag. Mange av dette jo løsninger som allerede en del av porteføljen. Og det vi ser på her jo hvordan kan vi sy dette sammen til en enda bedre løsning for brukerne. Så nå skal vi gå over til litt QA, litt spørsmål og sånne ting. Så da har vi fått med oss Jakob.
Hei alle sammen, mitt navn Jakob Fehn, og jeg jobber som salgsspesialist innenfor VCN. Jeg holder da I de merkantile sidene av dette produktområdet. Det jeg synes mest spennende med SASE eller SASE-konseptet den sammenslåingen av de eksisterende teknologiene vi nettopp så I demoen for å skape noe nytt. Og hverken SD-WAN eller Secure Access jo noe nytt for oss, men det å sikre SD-WAN-et ved å putte sikkerhetsfunksjonalitet I en pop I nærhet til klienten gjør at man kan skalere opp sikkerheten på en mye mer kostnadseffektiv måte enn om man for eksempel skulle oppgradert alle edgene med brannmurer og så videre. Og når man får knyttet dette sammen med et softwarebasert overlay som styrer trafikken både inn og ut av de riktige stedene, med de riktige sikkerhetsprofilene aktivert, så har man klart å komme operasjonelt sett til en mye enklere hverdag. For det jo til slutt det egentlig handler om. Hvordan skal vi støtte opp under en arbeidshverdag der vi befinner oss på forskjellige steder med forskjellige enheter og klienter. Og det kanskje noe man kalte the future of work for noen år siden, men det ble jo fort døpt om til the new normal når det smalt I fjor. Men nå føler jeg at det handler mer om det handler om mer enn bare det å håndtere noe uforutsett. Nå handler det om å optimalisere, effektivisere, sikre, operasjonalisere arbeidshverdagen fremover, rett og slett. Og dette må jo tunes til en kraftig og effektiv motor, som gjør at vi kan gjøre oss konkurransedyktige I fremtiden. Som en del av denne sesjonen så har vi bedt dere om å stille spørsmål I QA-boksen I Zoom. Og jeg kommer til å lese opp disse spørsmålene sammen med noen spørsmål jeg har notert meg under seansen så langt. Så første spørsmål. Hva hoveddriverne bak SASE?
Ja, det kan jeg prøve å svare på, Jakob. Du kan si hoveddriverne bak SASE ble jo nevnt litt I videoen her også. Det handler jo om å få sydd en del komponenter sammen som gjør at vi kan få administrert dem på en enklere måte. Roar nevnte det også I forhold til at vi har jo egentlig alle løsningene, men vi må kunne få dette her til å spinne sammen og spille sammen. I stedet for at vi skal sitte I hvert vårt dashboard og håndtere individuelle ting, så skal vi løse en helhet. Så det handler jo om å sy sammen cloud networking, cloud security, løsninger basert på VMware-produkter som SD-WAN, som vi allerede har fra før, Workspace One, som vi har fra før, Cloud Web Security, som vi har fra før, I NSX, og NSX som plattform. Og til sammen så skal det her bli en managed service, hvor vi skal håndtere distributed workload, distributed workforce, og til sammen en konsistent sikkerhet på alle nivåer.
Og hva det som egentlig forskjell mellom tradisjonell SD-WAN og SASE eller SASE da, som det kanskje heter?
Det blir vel litt sånn videreføring av det opprinnelige spørsmålet, sånn I forhold til at vi har jo SD-WAN, altså SD-WAN jo en plattform, en bærer av overlay-trafikk I form av at vi kan styre security policies, vi kan håndtere regler fra edge til endepunkt og så videre, og så har vi en veldig fleksibel modell I forhold til hvor trafikken skal gå, når han skal gjøre det, når brukeren skal nå et eller annet. Men det vil jo være fokus på den integrasjonen da, I forhold til at ja, vi har et edge-endepunkt, vi har edge-elementer eller våre SD-WAN-komponenter distribuert I de forskjellige hyperscalerne I forskjellige datahaller rundt omkring I verden, som vil gjøre at vi skal slippe å legge vekten på endepunktet som sådan, fordi at vi ser kanskje ikke det som hensiktsmessig at enhver bruker skal ha et rack med store bokser for å kunne håndtere den sikkerheten holdt jeg på å si, lokalt. Den sikkerheten skal håndteres én. Vi skal ha en kontrollert tunnel fra endepunkt, men så skal da trafikken nå et datasenter som er veldig nærme, som der har da den sikkerheten som gjør at vi kan få på plass det vi måtte ha, visibilitet, packet inspection, IDS, IPS og så videre. Så det er jo, funksjonaliteten skal da flyttes fra edgen, men over på cloud-infrastrukturen, som er mye lettere å konsumere og administrere, og scale ut og scale inn etter behov da.
Ja, hvilke elementer er det som egentlig inngår i SASE-løsningen fra VMware?
Ja, det vi har vært igjennom nå er jo SD-WAN som den grunnleggende, holdt jeg på å si, bæreren av trafikken vår. Og så ser vi jo på UAG, som er en Workspace One-komponent, Unified Access Gateway. Og så har vi NSX Firewall og Cloud Web Security, så det er 4 hovedkomponenter som vi syr sammen med forskjellige produkter fra VMware.
Og hva er det du tenker er den liksom hovedforskjellen fra den tradisjonelle måten å gjøre dette på? For vi har jo gjort dette før også. Men kontra den nye SASE-modellen, hvis du vil kalle det det.
Ja, og det er jo for så vidt et veldig interessant spørsmål, og det spørsmålet får vi jo veldig ofte. Altså, vi snakker om å kalle det ha kontroll på endepunktet. Ja, vi har VPN, så vi behøver ikke tenke på det her. Det blir jo også nevnt litt i videoen her i forhold til VPN. Hva er det? Jo, da har vi en kryptert tunnel fra endepunkt til endepunkt, så kan vi si da hjemmefra til datahallen, hvor datasenteret vårt er. Men hvis vi ser på hvordan workloaden vår ser ut i dag, så er ikke den alltid 100% lokalisert i det ene datarommet, eller kanskje 2 datarom. Det er jo distribuert rundt omkring, fordi at vi har en helt annen konsumsjonsmodell. Vi konsumerer noe fra Azhar, vi konsumerer noe fra Amazon. Vi har kanskje avtaler med noen private hostere som også har noen applikasjoner som konsumerer. Så vi skal jo konsumere en applikasjon der det er hensiktsmessig å konsumere den. Og da ønsker vi også at trafikken skal være like fleksibel. Som en tradisjonell VPN-løsning, så må du ha en ende-til-ende-løsning, hvor trafikken backholdes nesten alltid til datasenteret ditt, for å så kunne få lov derfra å gå videre ut, for det er der du har sikkerhetsfunksjonen dine som en gateway, firewall og så videre, som da kan bestemme, ja, den trafikken kommer derfra, den skal da ut på internett, aksessere Office 365. Med vår SASE-modell så ser vi på at i tråd med at applikasjonen er distribuert, så ønsker vi også at trafikken skal være distribuert, så den skal finne korteste vei til applikasjonen, samtidig som vi har da ivaretatt alle security policies, uavhengig av hvor trafikken måtte gå, så har vi kontroll på trafikken, men trafikken skal da ha en optimal path fra endepunkt til applikasjon.
Jeg vil jo komme inn litt her fra endepunktsida, sånn sett. Nå har du mye nettverksprat her, og det er jo ikke bare nettverk det gjelder, heldigvis. For da har det blitt ganske kjedelig. men som vist i demoen, så gjør vi mye integrasjon her allerede nå med andre partnere. Og i eksempelet som ble vist i den videoen, så var jo det Z-Scaler så en av de. Og vi har jo allerede Z-Scaler-integrasjon i type Workspace One-løsningen fra før, så det betyr at vi kan gjøre en sånn type feedback loop tilbake til Workspace One. Og igjen så betyr det at vi kan bruke da de dataene som går i nettet til å nettopp se på hva er et normalt bruksmønster, hvordan oppfører en device her normalt sett, og hva er et unormalt bruksmønster. Og så kan vi bruke det da inn i de policyene vi har for å gjøre autentisering og sånne ting. Så det også blir en viktig del av denne her SASE-modellen nå.
Hvis vi tenker litt fremover, for dette er jo et relativt nytt begrep, hvilke teknologier vil bli lagt inn i SASE fremover fra VMware sin side?
Vi ser jo på en del rundt sikkerhet selvfølgelig. Vi har jo Carbon Black som nå er en del av VMware, og det er jo naturlig at vi får inn en del mer sikkerhetskomponenter inn i løsningen. Som sagt så har jo vi de her integrasjonene med tredjepart, og det også er jo noe som jeg tror vil utvide seg enda mer, da, for vi ser jo at det finnes jo mange forskjellige løsninger, og å få det til å spille sammen i vår infrastruktur tror jeg blir viktig for hvordan dette kan fungere samtidig i fremtiden. Og så skjer det jo en del på nettverksiden, men det vet jeg kanskje Andreas mer om.
Ja, og det er jo også et interessant tillegg, fordi at hvis vi ser på veldig mange av våre kunder som har startet den software-definerte reisen i form av at alt skal i utgangspunktet baseres i software, fordi at det har en helt annen dynamikk, en helt annen elastisitet enn det å være avhengig av noe fysisk. Og når vi da også ser hvor workloaden vår og hvor workerne våre så jo ikke det lenger et sentralt sted. Så de kundene som har startet med NS6 som en nettverkssikkerhetsplattform, fordi at du får en mye mer dynamisk approach til å definere og håndtere sikkerhet. Du kan ta med deg sikkerheten din der hvor workloaden din måtte ende opp hen, og kanskje tilbake igjen. De vil også kanskje få muligheten til å strekke den NS6-fabrikken, også ditt hvor applikasjonen på lik linje som vi gjør med NS6 Cloud, så har vi kanskje en konsumsjonsmodell hvor veldig mye av workloaden ligger on-prem med en NS6-plattform som støtter opp under både nettverkssikkerhet, og så strekker vi ut noen applikasjoner i Azhar, i en public cloud som Amazon, hvor vi også ønsker å ta med security policyen. Så på sikt så ser vi nok også at den distribuerte IDS-IPS-funksjonaliteten som vi har i NS6 i dag, også kan være en del av SaaS-offeringen going forward da.
Ja, forstått logisk. Så hvilke devices, hvilke enheter som kan være med i denne løsningen her da?
Ja, som du så og fikk med deg fra den gjennomgangen, så jo dette en løsning basert på det vi har i dag med Workspace One UM. Så endepunktene i utgangspunktet de endepunktene vi har i dag som støtter type PRF-VPN. Det jo på en måte første steg, jo den Unified Access Gatewayen i SASE-poppen. Så det betyr jo Windows, Android, Mac og iOS i utgangspunktet. Men for de som var med på VMware, så du da at vi på en måte relanserte Linux-support. Det jo på en måte noe vi har hatt i systemet ganske lenge. Men det har på en måte aldri vært det har vært en ting der det har vært sånn, du innrullerer og så den der. Men nå begynner vi å få en del policies rundt det også. Og i utgangspunktet så jo det en desktop-ting. Men vi ser jo det at Linux Linux i mange tilfeller. Så du kan jo også se at dette blir en type IoT Edge tjenestemulighet da, i fremtiden.
Litt sånn relatert til det spørsmålet her, hvordan kan vi få kontroll på å opprettholde sikkerheten på selve Bring Your Own Device-enhetene da, som brukes utenfor bedriftsnettet, nå som man ikke på kontoret? Sitter på hytta og hjemme og bruker egne telefoner og så videre. Hvordan funker det?
Og igjen så det der Workspace One på en måte har sin styrke. Og da sammen med den SaaS-løsningen så kan vi bruke, da, som jeg sa litt tidligere, masse annet input fra andre leverandører til å nettopp bestemme hva sikkert, hva normalt, hva ikke normalt, og hvordan skal du handle det. Så sånn typisk scenario jo at hvis du har en device som oppfører seg som den skal, så får du typisk ingen sign-on. Da kommer du rett inn på alt du trenger. Hvis du kanskje da skal inn på noe som mer gradert eller hardere sikret, så vil du kanskje ha en tofaktor som kommer på toppen. Hvis da devicen din av en eller annen grunn ikke oppfører seg som den skal, det kommer en rapport tilbake fra for eksempel Carbon Black, så vil jo vi kunne si, ja, skal vi da tillate i hele tatt? Skal vi gjøre en blokk, eller skal vi igjen ta en tofaktor på alt som skjer, for å være sikker på at du den du Samme ser vi også på brukersiden, at vi ser jo på hva brukeren gjør. Da har jo du sånne ting litt som Z-scaler i eksempelet her, som ser litt på hvor trafikken går. Og hvis du har en unormal trafikk plutselig, som ikke på en måte innenfor det som definert som normalen, så kanskje du skal spørre om en tofaktor igjen. Det litt av tankesettet bak her da.
Ja. Og så litt i forhold til SD-WAN-plattformen vår, da, så har vi også muligheten til å spinne videre på den tankegangen med at hva lov og hva som ikke lov. Det kan vi jo styre enkelt med det vi kaller for business policies i vår SD-WAN-plattform, og vi kan styre trafikken, vi kan sette regler på hva som lov, og så ikke minst den, når du sitter på et endepunkt som kanskje ikke så veldig kjent, vi har en hytte, vi har en mobiltelefon, vi sitter på en flyplass, hvordan det vi kan sørge for at vi alltid når den applikasjonen vår på best mulig måte og sørger for at den linken som tilgjengelig, eller vi kanskje har flere linker, alltid gir oss best resultat og best opplevelse.
Veldig bra. Det var egentlig alt vi hadde tid til her, ser jeg. Tusen takk for spørsmålene som vi har fått inn. Skulle det være noen mer spørsmål eller noe dere lurer på, så det bare å ta kontakt med oss direkte eller med din lokale VMware-representant. Har vi noe mer vi skal tilføye før vi gir oss, Andreas og Roar?
Ikke som jeg kommer på.
Nei, jeg vil jo egentlig bare takke for at folk har kommet og hørt på oss. Det har jo vært veldig bra. Og så ses vi på vForum neste år, i 2022. Og forhåpentligvis da så blir vi et eller annet sted der vi kan faktisk hilse på hverandre og kanskje finne på noe etterpå. Så da får vi bare si takk for oss.